Facebook. It's a private community full of guys that want to learn more about building smokers, be it welding. Like if you have no welding skills or you want to improve your welding skills or fabrication skills, or if you're having someone build a pit for you and you just want to understand what you're getting, you can go in there and you can learn from a community of guys like us that just geek out about all these fine details on how smokers work and how to make them perform better for pitmasters.
And this is 100% free. You just offer this forum as a space to get everybody geeked out together.
Yeah, it's completely private. It's safe from all the knife guys in the Facebook groups and all of the work at home for, like all the spam that you get on Facebook. And it's a hate-free environment. We're in there because we love building pits and we love cooking barbecue, and it's focused on that. It's completely free.
So one other thing to note on the drum pits, too, because it just popped into my head, but you mentioned the open coals versus that baffle, and I'm just going to throw this out there, but that baffle also helps you keep those temps down. When you open the pit and it spikes with an open cooker, having that baffle plate in there keeps it from spiking quite as bad. So we want to thank you for coming, Frank. Don't forget to head on over to smokerbuilder.com and check out all the cookers, plans, and content there. Follow Frank on @smokerbuilder on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks again. And coming up, we're going to talk with Todd about cutting boards and those materials right here on Barbecue Radio Network.
If you have a business centered around barbecue or the backyard lifestyle, consider advertising with us. Contact us at bbqradionetwork.com.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Do you have poor balance, frequent falls, or have a fear of falling? Herman Physical Therapy has a solution, the Solo Step. It's an overhead track system with a harness that prevents you from falling while we improve your balance and gait. It eliminates the fear of falling so we can help you build confidence and achieve independence in walking again. We even offer free consultations. Let us help you. Herman Physical Therapy. We get results and make it fun. HermanPT.com.
Good for the body, good for the soul.
This is two-time World Barbecue Champion and host of Barbecue Radio Network, Andy Groneman, and I want to invite you to listen to America's #1 barbecue radio show with myself and my co-host, four-time World Barbecue Champion, Todd Johns.
That's right, Andy. Barbecue Radio Network leads the way with Barbecue Hall of Fame guests as well as other world champions dedicated to raising the game for backyard grillers and smokers everywhere.
Barbecue Radio Network gets cooking at 10:30 Sunday mornings on this MyTown Media station.
Here on Barbecue Radio Network. Man, I love talking with Frank. We could have geeked out for another 20 minutes on pit design.
Those segments went so fast because it was just like I was just enthralled. And the thing we didn't get to talk with him about is he's probably a better welder than he is an engineer. And that guy, when you look at his welds, it's like stacked dimes all the way.
Yeah, and I know he briefly touched on it, but he does a whole ton of live and online fabrication, pit fabrication content, because he is an amazing welder. So, yeah, if you're considering building your own pit, you definitely want to get on there and dig around there and go to that pit Smoker Builder U, because it's a group of people that are all just super passionate about that, and Frank's gonna share all the details. He's amazing about that.
And I think if you're just wanting to learn more about how all of that stuff's engineered and how it works and what's what about it, it's a great place to hang out too, even if you're not going to build your own, because you can pick up just a lot of information.
Doesn't having more knowledge about that make you better equipped to troubleshoot?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've never built a smoker, but hung around a lot of people that have, and it certainly helps build your body of knowledge.
It's time to kind of move on to our All Things Barbecue product spotlight.
Absolutely.
So check out allthingsbarbecue.com. All Things Barbecue, where barbecue legends are made. Get fired up and get everything you need to do it all at All Things Barbecue over at atbbq.com. So Todd, what do you got?
All right, so this show we're talking about pits, and we're not really talking about cooking and or meat and recipes. We're talking more about like hardware. So I thought we'd talk about cutting boards a little bit. And so one of the things that you're going to need to do if you've got a wood cutting board is you're going to need to condition that.
Wait a minute, you're teasing your own segment.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know.
I'm supposed to tease your segment.
I'm up in the game,
that doesn't
baby.
even sound right.
We're gonna feature from All Things Barbecue the Booze Mystery Oil, 16 ounces at $14.95. So this is oil, food safe oil that is meant to condition wood cutting boards,
and it's very mysterious.
It is. I found out what's in it. It is mysterious, but I found out what's in it. It's got mineral oil. It's got carbonara wax, I think is what it's called. And a little beeswax. So you're getting the oils and the waxes to kind of clear to saturate those pores, so that you keep
the
it from
oil
drying
will
out.
Penetrate it, and the wax protects it.
Right. So you keep it from drying out and splitting, and it'll make that board last a lot longer and be a lot more food safe. So Booze Mystery Oil, 16 ounces for $14.95. Great product, and that'll help condition your wood cutting boards.
Awesome. Well, and so you teased your own segment here, because we're going to talk about all of the different kinds of cutting boards.
It's almost like I knew it was coming. It's almost like I knew that we were going to talk about cutting boards. So let's talk about cutting boards. And being a former restaurant owner, we used a lot of cutting boards, and had to really think about, some of our cutting boards were massive, and so
table size.
So how do you clean those things? How do you condition those things? What's the right material? So whether you're in a commercial environment or at home, like, what should you be using and what should you not be using as well? So
that's just as important.
It is just as important. So what are the things that we need to be thinking about when we're thinking of cutting boards? Well, number one is just like food safety, and the wrong cutting board and one that hasn't been conditioned and clean can be just this germ factory, and all of the juices and all of the things that were on that, especially if you're using raw meat, right?
Yeah.
Like, all those germs just get down in those pores, and if you're not cleaning it well. So cleaning's a big part. And then your knives. If you're using something that's too hard, like there's granite cutting boards. Every time I see one, I'm just like, why are you...
What do you use that with that? A ceramic knife or something?
I would think, but people are going to put their metal knives on there, and it's not going to keep them sharp. It's going to dull them out. So things like glass cutting boards and granite, like, to me, the materials you want to go for as a barbecue and grilling person is a wood cutting board. Make sure that it's a hardwood, like maple. We can talk a little bit about end grained and edge grain. I'm also a woodworker, so I know a lot about that.
I was going to say, I want to talk about that specifically.
And so wood cutting boards are great. You want to make sure it's a hardwood. You don't want a pine cutting board. Bamboo is good. It's a renewable resource, and it's a very tight pour, so you're not going to get a lot of germs seeping into that and hanging out and breeding. And then most of the time in a commercial setting, you're looking at it's actually a rubber material that you think is really like plastic, but it's called Sanituff. And that's what those kind of...
Are those red ones, the big red ones? Are they Sanituff?
Like they come in different colors a lot of times, and restaurants will use different colors to mean different things. Like for us, a red cutting board meant you're only going to use that for raw. a blue cutting board, a light blue cutting board meant you're only going to use that for seafood. And then we had yellow and brown cutting boards that were meant for cooked food on the line, and we'd be cutting on those. So sometimes they're color coded, so like within the system, all of your
Again, to
employees.
keep you food safe and
Yeah.
not cross-contaminated.
Right, you're trying not to cross contaminate. So the Sanitough ones, those typically, if they're made out of good material and are not too thin, they can go in dishwashers if they fit. I would never ever put a wood cutting board in my dishwasher, especially at a high temp or chemical commercial dishwasher.
What about like Lexan or any? Are there boards that are made out of other plastics? Like I see, some that are printed that have like a design on them sometimes.
Sure.
At like not Home Depot, Bed Bath and Beyond, and places like that.
Yeah, and those are going to be fine. They're probably not going to hold up as long. They're probably not going to be as tough of a material, but they'll last you well enough. And you can go to Walmart and buy cheap little cutting boards. Like I've got a bunch of those. Little. They're like a quarter of an inch thick.
Yeah.
And they don't.
And how
last.
long do those last? Once you start getting cut marks in the surface of those, when does it become too much and it's a breeding ground for bacteria and just nastiness?
Great point. So as you're looking at your cutting board and there's a lot of cuts and grooves, that's where the bacteria is going to go in and hang out and breed. And if you've got, like in our restaurants, when we would have those bigger boards, you can condition those. You can take like a razor. They make commercial like shuttles, almost like a plane, that'll go and plane off the top surface to make that relatively smooth again and take a lot of those ruts and divots that the knives have caused out, and you're reconditioning your board. On a wood cutting board, you could just plane it with sandpaper or a palm sander or something like that, and then recondition it with some Booz Mystery Oil or something like that.
And on the wood boards, let's talk end grain versus edge grain real quick, because there's, the edge grain boards are much less expensive, but probably don't hold up quite as long.
Correct, and they're going to be tougher on your knives.
Yes.
So what's end grain and edge grain? So end grain, if you're looking down a board from the end, you're seeing the end of the board. That's the end grain. And if you're looking at the top of the board, that's the edge grain, and it's running the grain of the wood's running the full length of the board. So you can take some boards, laminate them together, or just take a board and cut on it, and you're cutting against you're cutting with or against the edge grain. And what that's going to do is it's going to splinter, it's going to cause ruts, and it's not going to seal up very well, and it's going to be a little less safe long term with germs. Edge grain means they have taken the ends of the boards and laminated those up. So as you're looking at a cutting board, and you can recognize these very easily. They're usually like a 2-inch by 2-inch square, and they've all been put together like a checkerboard.
Yeah, and they appear nicer too. They have a really cool appearance usually because that end grain does have a little bit more variation to it. The edge grain is going to give you that longer wood fiber, so you're going to see the structure of the wood more. The end grain just shows you that cross section. But it's better for your knives too, right?
It's better for your knives because as you're cutting into it, you're cutting into the end grain, and you're causing less like splintering and less long ruts, and it's going to be better on your knives. It's going to be better food safety wise. So end grain wood boards are great.
Perfect. Well, thank you, and we want to thank Frank Cox again for joining us today. Check out his website, smokerbuilder.com, and don't forget to head on over to atbbq.com, pick up some Plowboys Barbecue Hothead Barbecue Sauce. We'd like to thank you all for joining us. Next week, we are going to have more barbecue tips and tricks to keep your grill rolling for fall. We're going to get that fall grilling season kicked off. For Todd, T-Bone, and myself, thanks for listening. We'll keep the pits lit until next time here on Barbecue Radio Network.
Every Barbecue Radio Network show is archived and available through your favorite podcast platform each and every Thursday.
Holstein Manufacturing.
You have a better recipe for when you grill. Better ingredients, better cuts of meat, and because you're using a grill from Holstein Manufacturing, well, a better grill. You take grilling seriously, and at Holstein Manufacturing, we make a serious grill. Find your new grill now at HolsteinMFG.com.
We build a grill. Holstein Manufacturing.
Holstein Manufacturing, we build the grill.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your